We are going to problem pose on a few common narratives out there that I've noticed about voice, and I want to see if these are things that you've heard of too, and I want to take a stand against a couple of them. So myth number one that I want to present is that your authentic voice is the same no matter what context. I feel like I hear people being like, it's almost like a flex to be like, I'm myself no matter what. I don't change how I talk for anybody or anywhere. And I get the sentiment behind that. I get this like just loyalty to yourself, this unwillingness to bend or to perform. And what I'm going to present is not saying that you have to be performative or that you have to fake it for other people's expectations or limitations. But I do want to sort of peel apart this idea that to be authentic, to have an authentic voice, that you have this consistently same voice no matter what context, okay? And this is going to be a really compassionate message to people like me and maybe you who are maybe neurodivergent or multilingual or from different cultures. I call myself a world crosser. Maybe you identify that as well. So for me, as somebody growing up always trilingual, you know, one of the things that people would say if they heard me speaking Hakka, which is my mother tongue or my first language with my Hakka family, is like, you sound like you're arguing all the time. You sound so harsh. And we'd always be like, I'm not arguing. We're just talking. But I have a different voice when I talk in Hakka that's very startling to people who only speak English. And so I've always known myself that I have multiple voices in this one body, right? So let's get into that a little bit more. Your voice was never meant to be just one thing. All right. You have a dynamic, responsive, intelligent voice. For me, studying linguistics in undergraduate just like underscored all of these things that I intuitively knew, but was like, the world is telling me something else. We actually have an intelligence in our voice. We have different registers. I'm going to break it down a little bit more as we get into this, but just know biologically, you have a dynamic, responsive, intelligent voice that's actually designed to adapt, shape shift, and respond to outward stimuli to whatever messages it carries, where it carries it, who it carries it to. Okay. So in linguistic theory, we talk about registers of voice. Your one voice drops into different registers. Now, mass is a word that's been really like taken on a negative connotation, I think in popular discourse lately. And I get that because sometimes it can feel like such a burden to mask for dominant culture's expectations of us. But in other ways, I also want to acknowledge the usefulness, the utility of mass and how they've served me, how they serve many of us in the oppressive systems that we live in the social constructs that we live in. Our mass really do serve to protect us. And so until we all collectively manifest that better world, that more gentle world, which we're all here working to do, I want you to honor the mass when you need them. This is really culturally and socially informed, right? For example, many Black parents or parents who have children of darker skin tones, you teach your children that if they were, this is a United States-based context too, it might be different in different countries, but you teach your children that if they were to get pulled over by a police officer, you have a certain way of speaking, a certain mask that you need to put on in order to protect yourself, to keep yourself safe, right? And so that is sort of a really extreme example that unfortunately exists in our society today. But there are other less extreme examples of mass that I think we can all relate to, like the customer service mass or voice that we might have to drop into has been very useful probably for many of us. And so it's not a question of do we need these masks or not, it's how sovereign are we in picking them up or setting them down, and how actively are we dismantling the conditions external to us that require us to have those masks. But while they're necessary, let's honor how useful they are, okay? Then I want to talk about modalities and how versatile our voice is. So modalities relates to, for different needs, my voice can do different things, right? So if I am trying to hype my class up, I've been a high school teacher for so many years in my life. I was trying to hype my class up. I know that my voice probably needs to be a little bit higher, a little bit louder. I need to project. And that's a very different modality of voice, a very different register than when my 4-year-old daughter comes to me with a nightmare in the middle of the night and she's scared and my voice is gonna drop into this, it's okay, baby, I got you, you're safe here, right? So we have this versatility of our voice to respond to different needs. And then our voice also serves as an indication, a marker of progress, right? So you'll notice this, like most times if you are getting irritated, you're not immediately irritated, and you might be communicating the irritation really calmly at first. But if the irritation doesn't go away, if the person doing the thing doesn't pick up the cues, your voice might start to reflect that, and it's going to start to shapeshift a little bit and let that irritant know, hey, my boundary is getting violated again and again. So it might be a marker of, growing irritation. It might be a marker of growing exhaustion. Maybe you started up here at a level 10 and your voice starts to reflect, I'm losing my energy, I'm getting more tired. So it's indicating to those that we're in relationship with different things that are happening internal to us. Okay, so let's just look at this again. A voice in motion. We have this super intelligent, responsive voice that code switches in context, right? People of different, who speak multiple languages, or even if you speak one language but different dialects, even if you speak the same language, like if you're monolingual, you're going to speak probably in one version of your language at work. And then when you come with your best friends, right? If I was like in my teacher voice or my coaching voice and I went and hung out with my closest friends, they would be like, Jojo, who do you think you're talking to? You need to talk to us right now. So I code switch into my very casual, informal register when I'm with my friends, right? So we're code switching in context all the time, tonally responding to present needs, like I said, right? For those of you who are parents, you are changing your tone all the time. If your child's sad or scared, is a very different tone than if your child's about to run into the street and they're not looking and they need to hurry up and, stop and be safe, right? Very different tone. And then this is another thing that I want to bring to you. And actually one of the comments from the group kind of nodded to this. This is something I've been thinking a lot more about recently. Our voice matures through time and development if we give it the opportunity to. So I'm in a stage right now where I'm noticing I'm actually craving to embody a version of me that's less reactive, that's less quick to be loud, right? Without losing my power, I am noticing this just pull to mature my voice, to bring more silence sometimes into my day, to have a shorter answer, to do less explaining of myself. Just little shifts are happening, and they're happening because of my sovereign choice. Who do I want to embody, and how is my voice expressing that becoming? Okay, I wonder if you all can notice this about yourselves too. Okay, and then this final lens I want to layer on here is just to really root into code switching as sovereign care, right? Your shape-shifting voice cares for you. So when your voice is a little lower and a little softer because you don't have energy, that's your voice caring for you. It's conserving energy. Energy is limited until you can replenish it. You're going to either be silent or you're going to talk a little bit more quietly, right? It's also caring for your people. It's recognizing almost instantly. So Georgie, to your point, right? When we are in that deep reciprocal relationship, we don't have to be filtered because we can trust that our sovereign voice is caring for our people. It's responding minute by minute, second by second to what they need. And it's just free flowing, right? And then here's one other layer that you may or may not have considered before. And this is from an indigenous knowledge paradigm. Our voice also expands and shifts in order to carry our sacred knowledge. There are some lessons, some knowledge that have been gifted to us that require, when it's being channeled to a certain audience, a certain learner, that it needs to be carried with a lot of gravity, with a lot of solemnity, right? It is sacred, it is heavy, and your voice will come to reflect that. There's other lessons, or it might be a lesson in relationship to a certain person that actually requires some lightness and some humor. Or maybe it's a lesson that needs to be delivered with love. And maybe that love is that nurturing love. Maybe that love is a tough love. Your knowledge, as you deepen your relationship with your sacred knowledge itself, you're also going to be cultivating your voice to be that shape-shifting voice that's so responsive to the knowledge you carry. Okay? And you will be developing that muscle of trust that your voice is doing what it needs in each time. Being responsive to the context you're in, minute by minute, knowing that your voice, your heart is discerning and selective, and that your voice is becoming that generous conduit for all that you have to give, all that you have to pour out. Okay. All right. I am just underscoring again, when we're talking about authenticity, when we're talking about voice, it's your sovereign expression, right? It does not need to match up to dominant society's expectations of you, limitations of you, especially when those limitations or expectations are not congruent with the being, the human being that you are, the knowledge that you've been gifted, and what your voice is meant to do in this world. So I'm just going to invite you instead to root in. Just consider what happens when you root your relationship with your own authenticity, with your own voice, into care, reciprocity, integrity, and congruence within yourself, rather than feeling like it has to be consistent or same all the time.